Good afternoon, welcome back to the channel, or morning, depending where you are. Thank you so much for joining us on this fine Thursday for the usual Liam and Joe show. We had a bonus one on Tuesday. We're doing an extra, not an extra, this is the normal one. We did the extra one on Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're all doing really well. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I like the fact that we actually get called. It's weird to me. We get a lot of people are now saying best morning show. But for us, it's not the morning. It's very strange, Joe.
Yeah, I remember the best morning show used to be Live and Kicking.
Oh.
It had Cat Dealey, didn't it?
Was that what it was called? Live and Kicking?
Live and Kicking, yeah.
Was it not Saturday S something L? No, that's okay. Yeah, cool.
Live and Kicking was great.
Is that what
Did it add Denise Van Outen as well?
You're my Denise Van Outen. Joe.
I need to get some thigh-high leather boots then.
I'm into it. Yeah. I think Jack would love that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash all the magical YouTube buttons for us. It really helps us out. Hit those likes if you enjoyed the stream. Really helps the algorithm, specifically whilst we're live. So thank you so much to everybody who's hitting like. Smash subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live or drop a new video. We're actually on a major grind this month as well. Because it is January, and because for a lot of people it's a 6-week month, financially this is a bit painful for us at the moment, Joe. So the other thing you can do throughout today's stream, which will probably be about an hour and a half, is you can become a member, you can gift memberships, or you can super chat, which gets your questions directly in front of us. Joe has got his fancy iPad. He did the parcel all by himself today, chat. Yeah. SMTV, that's the one. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, Saturday morning TV.
He did the iPad all by himself this time. So if you do put a big colourful postcard in there, we will get to it, and Joe will answer. We will answer your question after Joe has badly read it out. Okay. So it helps us as well. It genuinely supports the channel. It massively supports the channel.
Yeah.
And as I told you before, gifted memberships account for probably best part of 80% of the channel's revenue. So we really appreciate it. You guys have been smashing it. Thank you so much. Now, today, what we're going to talk about, today's kind of a little bit themed, and it's a little bit themed with this evening's stream. Because the stream this evening is another game at 7:30, but we're welcoming a guest onto the channel for the first time to come and play and just have a chat with us, basically. A guy called Adam, who runs the 40k event at Beachhead in Bournemouth here in the UK.
Yeah.
Every February? Is it February?
Yeah, it tends to be every February.
February.
I think he's timed it so it's the first major in the world of the season of the new calendar year competitively.
So last year, Adam spoke to me and asked about the channel supporting the event, and I kind of said yes, but as always, I don't like to support anything or promote anything until I've experienced it, touched it, if it's a product, I want to hold my hand, put my hands on it, touch it first and feel it and see how good it is. If it's a model, I want to build it. I don't really want to talk about anything really or review it until I've experienced it. So I sort of said yes, but what I did last year is I actually went to Beachhead.
Yeah.
And I went and experienced that event myself. And then was like, I've been here now, I'm more than happy to promote your event. Yeah. Adam's a super nice guy. This year, obviously Beachhead is next month, there are still tickets available, so I was like, hey, why don't you come on the show? Come and play a game, and we'll just have a chinwag about it whilst we're playing as well. He can't make it for today's show, because guess what? Most people, Joe, this sucks, but most people have normal jobs.
I don't believe it, yeah.
Yeah. So instead of being able to come on the Liam and Joe show or come and do one of our podcasts, he's coming in the evening to play a game, because he's only coming from Bournemouth to play a game with us tonight. That will be this evening at 7:30. And so what I also thought is, over the course of the last, I don't know, probably month or so, there's been a bit of a vibe, specifically from me, a bit of a Debbie Downer on tournament play and a rule set design for tournaments instead of a rule set design for narrative. And I've definitely expressed my personal feelings quite heavily on that one over the course of the last month, right?
Yeah.
But actually, like watching some of it back and looking at it, I'm like, actually, it feels like I just really fucking hate tournaments and tournament players. And that's not the case. It's actually not the case.
Yeah.
Again, covered this a little bit on the painting phase interview I did with them, which is coming out on Monday, so you can check that out. But what I wanted to talk about tonight then, or today, sorry, or this morning, depending on where you are, is tournaments in general, Joe, and whether you can have fun at them. Because I think it is in fact possible for an individual to go to a tournament and have a terrible time.
Yes.
But I think that there are a number of things and steps you can take to kind of prevent that from happening as a majority experience.
Yeah.
So I think even if you take all the steps, there is a chance, albeit small, that you will come across an opponent, which means that you'll have a game where you just don't enjoy it in general. But actually, what I want to stress to you people in the community that have perhaps never been to a tournament, have considered going to a tournament, don't have local gaming groups and perhaps only can go to tournaments, I want you to actually contemplate, I want you, me, the person who supposedly hates tournament players, I want you to contemplate going to events. Because I actually think on the whole, the majority a positive experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more data from events that we can feed into the system, the better Games Workshop, in theory, can make it through analysis, meta watch,
data, maths.
Yeah. Stu Black can sit there and be with his abacus and his protractor and be like,
it's not
numbers.
A good abacus because he was like 6 months is 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His one is from a leap year, obviously. But before we go in depth, I've got to say thank you to a couple of people. Thank you, Reza Prime, for 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Nordos44, for a single gift membership, but we still appreciate it.
We do, you're ever.
Thank you, Schooner, for 5 gifted memberships. And thank you, Stick Member Monkey, Monkey, for 5 gifted memberships.
Sure, you're now called Stick Member.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
so,
big stick.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit today about tournaments in general. I think that this actually may be a bit useful. I'm hoping it's a little bit useful for people that have never been to one before either.
Yeah.
I have noticed, like Factorum is probably currently our local tournament scene, even though it's an hour away from me. And I think we've seen a decline in people attending 40k events, which for me is really sad.
Yeah.
It would indicate perhaps people are a bit turned off for the game. But actually, I think that, much like we spoke about last night, chat, when we talked about is it the people or the rules that make it narrative, in terms of a tournament experience, the people can make that experience an incredible experience, even if the game isn't quite exactly where you want it to be.
Yeah.
And so I've been to a number of GTs and a few majors as well. Went to Beachhead last year, and I will honestly say I've maybe had 2 to 3 bad experiences in my whole 40k playing career in tournaments. And when I say bad experiences, I mean a single player bad experience, not a weekend bad experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like you go for a weekend, you play 5 games, one player might have been a bad experience, the other 4 great experience. Overall experience, pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? That's been mine so far. Have you had a whole bad weekend?
I've never had a whole bad weekend. I've had it where, like one person spoiled the pot, and it's not, and it's normally like game 4, game 5 kind of thing,
where people think they can win.
Yeah, when people think they're in a position that they can win.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're more fixated on the idea of winning than they are about having a good time and experiencing the event. And sometimes people can be a bit blunt, and sometimes people can be a bit emotional, and it's like, or sometimes they bend the truth, and it's just like, and I'm one of those people where I get to a point and I'm like, sometimes like, you clearly care more about this than I do. I don't care anymore, and then I'll change and then I'll be like, I'm done now.
But I think if you, controversial opinion maybe, but I think if you figure that out pretty early on into the game, you can actually turn it into a positive experience.
Yeah.
Because if you get to a point like, so we spent a lot of time last night, chat, on the stream talking about Vag. It happened. If you aren't aware that what the fuck I'm talking about, the gaming channel that Joe and I muck around on, we've kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Reinvigorated.
Restarted.
We've reinvigorated it recently. And I'm changing the name from a me name to an us name. Very average gamers.
Yeah.
Adge, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about, on the stream yesterday we did on Call of Duty, what I said to the chat was, I've actually started to really enjoy playing Warzone. And the reason why I've started to really enjoy playing Warzone is quite simply because I don't actually really care about the end result of the whole game. I don't care about winning necessarily. I care about having fun and enjoying myself. I think if you come up against one of those opponents that you've just mentioned, I feel like often that's pretty obvious quite early on.
Yeah.
Like maybe within the first half hour.
Yeah.
And a game is typically 2.5 to 3 hours at an event, I think, normally. I think if you find that out in the first half an hour, that's the thing that's going on and that's the way they're going to kind of behave.
Yeah.
And you go, you know what? I'm not worried about winning the event. I'm here to have fun. He clearly cares more than I do, your words, right? So I actually don't really care about winning this game. I'm just going to have a laugh now and enjoy myself.
Yeah,
I often find they kind of relax into it a little bit more as well.
I've talked to Paddy about this, and he does the same as what I do when I get to that state of mind. Because sometimes because you do try and you start caring, you just have a bit of fun. You try and kind of, and they don't. He does what I do. You just push all your models into the middle of the table. Just kill it, please. Let it end.
So I've had a similar experience with people, but half an hour I've gone, I'm not going to win. So I just try. This sounds like a really weird attitude to take against a person who clearly cares more than I do. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work really hard now to make sure he has the best experience he can. And often the game ends with us giggling and laughing and having fun, and he probably wins. 9 times out of 10 they win because they really want to win, and I don't care enough about it. So I'm like, I'm just going to make it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
And if I make it him having fun, he enjoys himself. Actually, typically that bounces back, and I enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably the right attitude.
Some of the best games I've had are normally against people who have never done tournament, and they normally say, and most people will tell you, like, this is my first event. Because you go to, normally you go, what's your name? My name's this. Like, have you done events before? Like, do you know what my army does? What does your army do? And you get to know the person before you start rolling dice, because then you can kind of gauge what they're like and what like their intentions are. But also like some people, I played against a lot of people like game 1, game 2, where it's their first ever event, and they're like, I don't care about winning. Like, I just want to learn. I'm just here to experience the event. And then you can go, cool, because at that point, I'm like, you might win the game, I might win the game. Like we'll just play it, and if you need help with anything, I'll help you out. I'll coach you to beat me if you need to.
Melody's called 40k events nerd speed dating. Apart from not a lot of speed.
No. A lot of sweating though. A lot of heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get that on speed dating.
No. A lot of sweaty people bumping into each other.
What I really want to drive home really, really early on into the stream, actually, to be honest with you, people, is the fact that, in my personal opinion, tournaments. I'm not specifically not saying tournaments can be a ton of fun.
Oh, 100%. I
often think the people that don't enjoy the tournament experiences are kind of twofold. I'm going to try and categorize them into 2 types of people. Feel free to argue. The first category of people that don't have fun at tournaments are the ones that go to win. I think that's something that is fully within your control. I think often if you're going to go to a tournament and try and win, then you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself early. The second thing is you're playing a random rolling D6 game, for Christ's sake. The second you put that kind of pressure on yourself, much like Warzone yesterday, you're going to start to really feel the pressure. You're going to start to really not enjoy yourself if things aren't going your way. And you'll start to go, oh, I fucking missed all my shots, or the charge failed, this is really shit. If you think about not giving a shit about winning and just enjoying yourself, like I often go to an event and I think, hey, do you know how I measure a successful 40k event for me? If we aim at GT side specifically, 5 games, a good event for me is if I come away making 5 new friends. And I don't have to win or lose for that to happen.
What if you play 2 people that you know that are already friends with you?
I mean, now I've failed, haven't I, Joe? Too much pressure.
Too much pressure.
You just fucked me, Joe,
Yeah. You ruined yourself. It's a terrible plan.
Anyway, the only other people that I think have a bad time, the only other time I think people have a really bad time at tournaments is when they do, unfortunately, come across a lot of Type 1. So if you come across 5 opponents who all really want to win, you can actually have a bad time at a tournament. So actually, we can all solve bad events if everybody goes with the right attitude. You'll never come across anyone with the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
Right? So if everyone goes to events going, I'm going to enjoy myself. If I win, I win. I'm going to try and win, but I'm not going to put that much pressure on winning the event that I'm an arsehole if I'm losing, or I get stroppy if it doesn't go my way. But so I'm going to try and win. Let's face it, when we play on the channel at on the games on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are both trying to win, but not at the expense of the other person's experience.
Yeah, and you've got to think, like, in our minds, we also have to be aware that the game has to last 3 hours.
Yeah. Well.
You know? Or, like, for instance, on Tuesday, if I haven't watched it yet, that game went very differently to how I was expecting it to go.
Yeah.
But I thought Eddie was going to push my poop in.
I also thought, that, as per usual, we'd take 40 minutes in his first movement.
Yeah.
He didn't.
When actually, it went very downhill very quickly for Eddie.
Yeah.
And we had to kind of fill it out. So sometimes you're like, oh, I've got to fill some time. But like I say, like, before you go to an event, and I said this on Bang when I was with VT, before an event, you need to have some self-reflection upon yourself. Right?
Instead of self-reflection on other people,
Yeah.
Joe.
I'm not here to use words English good, all right? And you have to be real with yourself, and you have to sit there and you have to stare into a mirror like this. If you don't have a mirror in your house, you phone with your camera. looking at
Okay.
you, right?
All right. Okay. So you have to be able to see yourself.
Yeah, and you have to be like, I am not that great of a Warhammer player, right? I am not the best Warhammer player in the world. I am not going to win all 5 of my games. He's not.
I mean, some people do.
Like, statistically, out of 100 people over 6 games, only one person is going to win all
5
or 6
5,
games.
Yeah.
Like,
Statistically, normally.
So 99 people that go to that tournament are all losers,
Yeah.
right? And you have to be real with yourself, and you'd be like, am I going to be happy if I only win 1 game this weekend?
Yeah.
Like, my goal is to win 4 out of 5 games because I know I'm not going to win the tournament, which is not that good. And then you go like, if I win 1 game, I'll be happy, right? If I lose 3 games in a row, like Sunday morning when I go there, like, am I going to put the pressure on myself to still win that 1 game? You have to go with the mindset that, like, no matter what happens, you'll be happy with the result.
Yes.
Right.
I have been in a position at a tournament before where I played 2 games. First 2 games I played, I've lost both of them.
Yeah.
And both of them have been super close.
Yeah.
So you're talking like 5-10 points in it. And I would consider them great games. I've lost, but they're great games. And so I go into round 3, and you can take one of 2 mindsets at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because you can go into round 3 and you can go, I've lost 2 games. This
Yeah.
is shit. I'm doing terribly. Or you can go, I've had 2 really close games, really great fun. Let's go for the 3rd one.
Yeah, I've had it where I remember specifically, it was the qualifiers for Games Workshop's like grand tournament. So it's one of the qualifiers I went to at Warhammer World, and you have to win 4 games to qualify because you need to get in the top 50 or whatever it was to get in there.
Yeah.
It's like I have to win 4 games, right? I lost the first game out of 5, and I was like, shit, the pressure is on, all right? And then I played the next game. We both lost, and we're both in a position now where we might not go, might not qualify. And I said to my opponent, "Do we care? Right? Is it worth spoiling the rest of the weekend?" And me and my opponent were like, "No." And me and my opponent then had a really good game, which I won. He lost, and he was like, "Good luck, have fun." I was like, "Look," and I said to my opponent, "Like, you have fun. Like the pressure is off you now."
Well,
But then it got to and then I won all the way. My last game on the Sunday was the 4th one I had to win, and me and my opponent both knew that one of us was going through. Basically, no one wasn't, and we both stood there and says, no matter what happens, like whether I win or you win, like don't be a dick, right? Just be honest. If you forget something, we can go back.
Don't be a dick is rule number 1.
Yeah,
right?
Like if you need to go back on something, we'll always go back, right?
Yeah.
Like just have fun. Whatever happens, happens. All right.
Yeah.
And it's literally got to the point because this was like random roll off for turn 6.
Oh, okay.
All right, and it got to the point where if the game ended, I won. If the game went on,
He won.
he won. And that was literally it.
What a game.
Yeah.
What a game.
And I had 1 model left. He had the big fucking Tau supremacy thing on the table. He literally tabled me. I had literally 1 Archon left. And I said to him, I can't even roll this dice. it's too much pressure. Yeah. And it got to the point where and he didn't want to roll it either. We just got a random person to roll it for us.
So, but what's nice is you're now talking about this specific experience, which very much sticks in your mind as a positive experience.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't yet know who won.
Yeah, I won. He rolled it,
well.
and we didn't go to 10-5, and I won. But it was a 50-50 dice roll because it was on a 4+. But we both said in agreement. There's 2 games at that event where we both agreed that like we're just gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Well, this is going to lead into something else I want to mention as well. Once we talk about this, we'll jump into some of the super chats.
We've got loads of super chats to go through.
We've got a few, not loads. Yeah. Don't give them an idea. We haven't got enough gifteds yet, chat. Anyway, the thing I want to talk about is at the end of is it this weekend is LVO or is it next weekend is LVO? I feel like it's this weekend.
I think it's next weekend.
I think it's this weekend.
VT did an LVO stream last night.
I'm pretty sure it's this weekend is LVO, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I think it's next weekend.
Okay, so LVO is coming up, right? LVO typically marks the end of the ITC calendar.
Yeah,
okay.
it does, because whoever wins LVO basically wins the ITC.
Yeah, so once the ITC calendar finishes, next week, okay. Once the ITC calendar finishes for 2023-ish, 2024, 2023 specifically season, which will be in 2 weekends' time, the new calendar starts. At the point in which the new calendar starts, I'm going to try and monthly track progress in the ITC for people who are using our team name. And I'm going to make an active, I'm going to actively encourage you all now, all of you people who like the channel, love the channel, I want you all to be using our team name if you're happy to. There's zero pressure. Now, the reason why I'm going to track it is we're going to offer some kind of prize support, I think, for people that are representing the team in the ITC. How we do this exactly, I don't know. But I don't require you to be top of your category. I don't require you to be top of Blood Angels or top of Black Legion or whatever. I don't require you to be top of the ITC. What I'm actually going to do is extrapolate the data and just pull out everybody who's got the team name, and I'll just put them in a chart and we'll post those results in Discord. Okay? Super simple, super easy. We're not comparing ourselves to anybody else. We're not comparing ourselves to Art of War. We're not comparing ourselves to Glasshammer. None of those people. We're not going to be doing that. We're not going to be doing a coaching service because that's ridiculous. What we're actually just going to do is pull that data out, and then we're just going to look at how everyone's getting on and say, well done, Joe, who's top of the team name.
Yeah,
and the team name, if you go to into Discord, into the merchandise section, and go to the raven.gg website, the new shirts that are there have a team name across the back of them, so that if you want to know what the team name is, you can't miss it. Great Hall, Shield, Wall, all separate words. Great Hall, Shield, Wall. That's it, right? So it's Viking reference to the Great Hall, which is where we're sat right now. Again, on the back of the Raven t-shirts, I could put another post in Discord if you want. Zero pressure. We don't like, if you've like melodies like Titans is where I go to, like, you crack on. You do not have to represent us whatsoever and be in our community. There is no requirement. You don't have to sign a contract. You don't have to sign an NDA. You don't have to sign a terms of service. You don't have to sign a code of conduct. Nothing like that at all. Just represent the name if you're happy to. The one thing I will say, if you want to represent that name and be involved in this particular league that we're going to be kind of doing over the next 12 months and see if it works, the one thing I will say, the one thing I will ask you, hand on heart, the one thing that I will ask you people to do for us, if you're going to put that name on your tournament entry, on your ITC name, if you're going to wear, no, the shield wall separate words, Jay. That's why I said they're all separate words. I literally said they're all separate words.
Well,
if you're gonna, Melody got it right, you got it wrong.
How dare she?
Melody, you are correct. I might just make you a mod instead of Joe at this rate.
I'm not a mod. I'm using your.
The one thing I'm going to ask you, hand on heart, I'm going to ask you. There's a thing that I want anybody who represents that name, at any event in the ITC. There's one thing that I want to ask you to do when you walk up to that table. Okay, thank you, Joe. You did good. Yep, you spelled it all correct as well. Well done. I'm going to ask you very kindly to always have in your mind the experience that your opponent's about to have. Okay? And what I mean by that is, if you are behaving like a dick, if you are going all out to win, if you are being a bit of a gamey dickhead, your opponent's probably going to have a bad time. So what I want you to have in your mind, if you're going to wear that name, if you're going to put that name on your sheet, if you're going to represent that name, all I want you to think is, what kind of a time is my opponent going to have? Because I am the person responsible for making sure they don't have a bad time. On the whole, some people are a lost cause. Some people you can be nice as pie, super friendly, and they'll just be throwing their toys out the pram. But at least you know you're not the reason for them having a bad time. Okay? And that's all I ask. So like I said, no code of conduct. It's very simply what Joe said. Don't be a dick. That's it.
Don't play Elder.
I would love, well, I can't play Elder at tournaments because of the way they currently are, genuinely, because my opponent would have a bad time. Because I just laugh maniacally and win.
What if you rolled, you took 60 Guardians and 60 of the combat Guardians with the sticks?
They probably would have less of a bad time. They probably have more of a fun time. Team badge, that's for COD payment dollars, this isn't for 40k. So all it is, the only thing I ask is don't be a dick. Try and make sure you're not the reason your opponent has a bad time, is I guess it in a nutshell. Because if you act like a bell end, you could end up being the reason why they have a bad time. Like I said, some people will have a bad time anyway, even if you are the nicest person on earth, because they put that pressure on themselves, that expectation on themselves before they've gone.
Well, and also, like, sometimes, like, you could be really, really nice to someone, and their dice just ain't it that game.
Yeah.
Like no matter what you do to be good and nice to them, their dice just
Sometimes
not be.
you can be really, really nice to someone, and they'll be like, "Why have you followed me into the toilet?"
Yeah. Why are you touching me there? You know. Anyway.
So that's what we're going to do.
Oh, that's a good point from Stick Monkey.
What?
Is Eddie banned from representing the city? He'll never be Great Hall Shield. He always represents Tryhard, doesn't he?
Eddie is more than welcome to represent Great Hall Shield Wall, but he'll probably just represent Tryhard. Yeah. And also, so all I'm asking is, people use our name. I'd like to see the Great Hall Shield Wall name more frequently in places and a bit more people talking about it. But I would I would love to be like, oh, I played a guy from the Great Hall Shield Wall or a girl from the Great Hall Shield Wall. Had a great time. I don't give a fuck if they won or not. I don't care. I don't know. I have no interest in getting to the end of next year ITC. Yeah. Looking at LVO and be like, oh, if Fred Bloggs wins, Great Hall Shield Wall wins the ITC. I don't care about that. Yeah. I couldn't care less about that.
That Colin from the Great Hall cleaned all my bottle tops before I had a drink with his own mouth. You know?
So that's all I care about is that you have fun. Like I said, like Melody as well. If you already have a team you represent, so I know Melody represents Titans. I'm sure some of you others represent Titans. I think Lehman Russ, he represents. There's a World Eaters one. I can't remember what they call themselves.
Something Carnage.
The Red Path. Is it Red Path? I think
no, the Red Path.
I think that's what I can't remember. But there's people out there that already represent teams. I'm also not asking you to step away. I'm not asking you or telling you to step away from teams that you currently represent. Represent whoever you want. I'm just saying if you represent us, just don't be a dick. Simple as that. Yeah. Anyway, before we carry on talking about our experiences at tournaments, etc., we've got some super chats.
Oh, we've got. Thank you, Adrian, for the one gifted membership.
Adrian!
Right, super chat. Thank you, Schooner. I've done many 40k tournaments over the last 5 to 10 years, and the last 18 months or so, it has gone downhill in fun. I've done 3 or so AOS tournaments so far, and so much different and more fun.
Okay, that's interesting. Don't feel the need to super chat again, Schooner. However, like, why? What in your? How do I word this? Because I don't want an essay, but I want to know why. If there's a reason that you think that 40k tournaments have become less fun for you and AOS have become more fun, is it general game balance? Is it the rules? Because I feel like AOS and 40k is are similar in rules. Is it literally the people?
Yeah.
Because that's what interests me the most. Whether it's the people.
I've done events, mostly over the last year, where I've taken armies and I've gone 1-4, and it's like no matter what I do, I just cannot win a game with this army. And sometimes like I've had a great time, my opponent's had a great time, but my army, because the balance is so, and then it's just thank you, Martin Easterman says, hey Liam, this is a 2-parter. Sorry, life melting, so I haven't been around. Just to say, the solution I have considered is for tournaments to be split in 2. One half is for entries where your win-loss is only used to determine your next opponent, and the win-loss info is not reported. The win event categories are more things like most thematic, most fun to face, best painted.
Okay.
Yeah, he has got the other half is that, and it says you'll get to go to the same events, but some people are trying to win and enjoy by being the best player, and others are winning by taking the models they like and never getting muddled up together. So we talked about this in another one where at Warhammer Fest they did it, and they're doing it more in America, where after the first 2-3 games, you then get split into pods. Mm-hmm. So everyone in the same bracket then gets paired off. Yeah. So if let's assume it's after game 3, right? Everyone who's won their first 3 games goes together. Everyone that went 1 and 2 goes together. Everyone went 2 and 1 goes together. Everyone 1 and 1. So you're kind of with your people.
It's almost like a seeding, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like a seeding process before you then play the tournament.
Yeah, but then some large events like LVO does it and LGT, where they do have 2 separate events that you can buy tickets for. And you have the 40k competitive and a 40k casual. Mm. I think LVO also has LVO narrative. So there's 3 versions of it, basically. So there's people that really want to be competitive, people that just want to play 3 games, and there's people that are really specific about what colour things are painted.
Yeah.
and why they're painted that way.
I think that I find it tough. Like I actually like the concept of. So I'm kind of torn between one. I like the concept of having a multitude of different events that appeal for different people. So I used to. There was I don't know if they still run confrontation events down in Portsmouth, but Ricky, who used to run them, used to put quite a heavy emphasis on hobby score.
Yeah.
And so people could win all 5 games with the highest points and still not win the event if they've literally turned up with a black rattle-canned army that's had some red, some blue, and some yellow on it, for example, right? And I actually kind of really like that. What I like about Martin's suggestion the most is, hey, I'm actually suggesting we all come to the same place still.
Yeah.
Because there's also this weird, I think there's this weird kind of attitude between some people that a narrative player and a tournament player can't get on with each other.
No.
Well, you still love the same hobby.
Yeah.
You might enjoy playing it a different way, but you still love the same hobby. There's hyper competitive people that I know who I think are great people. There's hyper narrative people that I know that I think are great people.
Yeah.
And there's both ends of those scales who I also think are complete bellends.
Yeah.
Like I love the concept of like the reasons why I think things like LVO or the LGT are so good is all these different people playing all these different wargamers, playing all their different versions, whether it's narrative, whether it's competitive 40k, whether it's AOS, whether it's Heresy, whether it's Malifaux, whether it's Infinity, whatever it might be, and they all come together in one place. That's really cool.
Warhammer Fest did it really well. The overall Warhammer Fest part of the event didn't go so super great, but the tournament side of it went really well. There was like 10 people in my group that went. There was like 3 of us that played wanted to play the 3-day 40k GT, and that was 6 games, potentially 9.
Yeah.
It was 6. It was 5
3
games.
Saturday, 3 Sunday.
Yeah, but you could drop after game 5. I wanted to do the whole way, but after game 7, I was like, I'm too tired. I can't do any more.
Yeah,
it became a marathon.
Yeah, it's fair.
But I went with people like there was a couple guys who were literally doing a singles tournament on the Saturday, and then they did a doubles tournament on the Sunday. Some people just did a doubles tournament for both days. One guy did 3 different types of so he did I think he did a 40k singles on a Saturday, and he did a Heresy on a Sunday, and then he did a doubles on the Monday. So
that's cool.
But all of us would get the
Although
same.
I wouldn't want to bring all those armies.
I know, but he had a hotel directly next to it, and he parked in the NCP underneath, so all of his armies were there. But we all went together. But we were all doing very different things.
Yeah.
We still had food together. We still went out and did stuff before. We did stuff afterwards. It's not like we're not being segregated because of what we enjoy doing.
And one thing as you touched on before, which I want to bring up as well.
Yeah.
If you are actually here's a genuine suggestion for people, a genuine tip, so to speak, right? If you are actually really worried about going to your first event, if you've never been to a GT or a tournament or any kind of event like that before, and there is some stigma that goes around some of these singles events at least. Do you know one of the things I would first suggest you do? Find a friend who knows or has been to events before. Go to a doubles event.
Yeah.
Maybe a team event, but with a team event you still play your own single game. But go to a doubles event with someone who knows what they're doing.
My first ever Warhammer tournament was at Warhammer World at a doubles event.
I have never, ever, ever had a bad doubles or team experience.
No?
Never.
I've had...
my only bad experiences have only ever been in single-player games.
I've played against teams where, like doubles, where one of the 2 people you're playing against is a right douchebag. And the person with them is like, I know he is. Just let him.
His own teammate knows.
Yeah, his own teammate knows. But I feel like that's even like a better double act, because you can really get on with the other one and almost sympathise.
It's like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, you always have to sympathise with them, kind of thing.
I want to pick up on Skoon, who's been in chat since his super chat. I did specifically say don't super chat it again. He's basically saying that the biggest reason for his super chat and the right reason why he thinks it's got worse for 40k over the last 18 months and better for, or 6 months and better for AOS is the people. He says that the scene up in Scotland's changed quite a lot. You're surprised now, chat, right? I can multitask, I can talk and read at the same time. The scene up in Scotland's changed quite a lot. A lot of tryhards now exist where if you take a fun list to a tournament, they'll literally take the piss out of you. It's like AOS tournaments, completely different mindset, just as competitive, but everyone's there to have a laugh, and AOS players are just excited to see other AOS players.
Yeah.
He said you could be playing on top tables there, and your opponent's still making you giggle and you're having a good time.
It does sound mental. Like there's always talk about like how different countries have different metas. Like there's different metas within this country. Like when we went up and did the Hellstorm event, like it was a completely different gaming experience. Like down here in the south, it's much more of an infantry meta. Everyone plays mainly all infantry-based armies.
Yeah.
When I was up there, tanksy.
All vehicles, yeah.
All vehicles.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So I would be surprised if you go slightly further up, it's something entirely different. But like the way the game has evolved over the last few years, there has been a much more emphasis on competitive play.
Yeah,
and
I think
also,
it has.
and the community of competition has grown, and we have kind of cultivated a winning community of like, it now means something to be good at 40k.
Yeah, I think when GW kind of really got themselves actively involved in the ITC and Frontline and supporting the Frontline events over in the US specifically, and being at the majors, and GW themselves now also report on things like the ITC, and we saw the Warhammer World Championships, which was GW run, where Manny went over and won that. You know, I think that because GW are themselves recognising tournaments, recognising events, recognising standings and positions in kind of league tables, I think that also has added weight to it, meaning something to people now.
Yeah.
Because when people see GW doing Meta Watch, when people see GW reporting on competitive events, when people see GW talking about winners of tournaments, etc., and talking about winning lists and stuff, they go, I mean, I think a lot of the average hobbyist would probably be really excited to have their name on a GW article or in a White Dwarf or something. And I don't blame them, 100%, you know. Some people even write articles in White Dwarf who know what they're talking about. Yeah. It's rare, but it happens. So I can get why people would be excited about, but you are right. I think there is more emphasis on winning. And I think that even the game itself has evolved into a place whereby it's about scoring points often more. Well, it's the structure of the game kind of encourages you to take the stance. It's about scoring points more than perhaps playing a narrative. We talked about this a little bit last night on the stream as well when we weren't talking about Vag. And it's it's a sentence I'm never going to get bored of saying that, by the way. Yeah. And we were talking about how, you know, what makes games narrative, Joe. This is the topic last night. What makes a game narrative? Is it the rule set or is it the players? Now, I argued it's actually a bit of both. Yeah. So you can definitely have a more narrative rule set that has armor facings and it has firing arcs and it has, you know, an AP system, an initiative system, weapon skill systems. That definitely helps the narrative. But what that's doing at that point is it's kind of spoon feeding your narrative. We're not going to get that back in 40k. We've not had that since 7th edition. No. I think people like myself, having looked back on the last few months, I think I just have to swallow that and accept the fact we're not getting that back. I think that then the player is responsible for making things a bit more narrative and having fun. Yeah. And so I think you're right. I think that the game itself does kind of lean towards the winner's mentality, you need to win. But I also think we as players, much like I've just said is the rule for representing our team and our community, the players are the ones that go, I need to make sure I'm behaving.
I think there is, like, Games Workshop is starting to slowly inject a bit of narrative into stuff through detachments. So the detachments are, like, have a narrative leaning on them. Some are more open to abuse than others, right? So the Tyranids, for instance, those detachments are incredibly narrative. You know, the Vanguard one, which is all about
I don't think any of them are not narrative, are they? If you think about it.
No. One's all about big monsters, one's about little gribblies, one's about feeder units, one's about infiltrating units, one's just like a general kind of swarm army.
I think it's coffee table, nice. Isn't it?
It's great, isn't it? Don't break it more. And that's really, I think that was really, really good. That's really well done.
Yeah, I agree.
The Space Marine one is a bit more open-ended on what you can put in those obviously they're like, they say they have like benefits to some units, but it's a bit more open-ended in the sense that there are a lot of different types of play within any specific chapter. Whereas the Necron one, you've got the Destroyer cult, you've got the Guardians one.
I'm actually thinking, right, so we've had 4 codexes, we've had Admech, Necron, Space Marines, Tyranids. Could you argue that any of the individual detachments are not narrative?
No, you can. They all have a narrative to them.
100%.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that I don't think like I would even. I mean, I'm going to get some fucking hate for this, and I'm aware I'm about to get some hate for this. You could even argue, to some extent, that even the current Eldar detachment, you could spin a narrative to it. The reroll hit, reroll wound. You could. I think it's too powerful.
Yeah, it's.
Right?
I'd say if you leaned it into more,
You could have the same mechanic.
Yeah.
You could re-roll a hit or a wound roll per turn, for example.
I think if you were like, you have to have more Farseers and warlocks than you do any other HQ. Or the other HQs can't be more than the number of Farseers and warlocks based on the fact that they're playing with the skeins of fate.
So you want to apply a restriction to make it make sense as narrative.
Yeah.
I get it. But you could argue, what I'm saying is, if we take the very basic premise of it, you could argue that you could apply narrative to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think GW have actually completely lost sight of narrative in 40k.
Even the Admech book, which is garbage, has got a lot of narrative in it.
But we know the book in general is garbage, but specifically
But
when
the
we
attachments are narrative.
yes,
Yeah.
if you apply that book comparatively with the other 3 books, it's garbage. If you took that book as the first one out and every other book was built to that, then they'd be balanced to a point. There's a couple of things I think that they are getting slightly wrong, narratively wise. Like I think melee units are nowhere near strong enough nowadays. But then it's a game. We are talking. Let's be honest. Did swords and chainswords make sense in the 41st millennium? Probably not, actually.
They do.
If you want to fight with spears and swords, you should probably be playing a fantasy-based game, maybe. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. What I'm saying is, even down to the fact that every single data sheet has its own ability now, I think they are absolutely trying to inject narrative into it. And I don't think they're doing a horrific job. And sometimes that narrative is so strong, you end up with Eldar rules.
Yeah.
Where if you look at the fate dice, and you look at the detachment rule, and if you look at their weaponry, each of them in individual isolation, pretty narrative.
Yeah.
Pretty narrative. You put them all together and put them on the tabletop, and that's when we then have the difference and the discrepancy between balance and narrative. Right?
It's like that's how sometimes you end up with this weird situation where people are trying to infiltrate Marnia's Kargal with a lieutenant and a bunch of aggressors using the Phobos detachment.
Yeah.
That's when the competitive kind of gets involved.
I've seen that. Chainsaws are cool. Don't you dare start.
Yeah,
I didn't say they're not cool.
Right, I'm going to Beachhead with an assault company flesh tearers. I want to have as many assaultants as I can fit into it.
Chainsaws go burr everywhere.
Yeah. It's just all about does my unit move 12 inches and have a jump pack and a chainsword? Yes.
Yeah.
Done.
I think sometimes I'm going to hold my hands up also and say that I'm horrifically guilty for this, and sometimes definitely to my detriment when it means going to tournaments. I put too much emphasis and too much attention, and you probably recognise this over the last month or two, chat, on narrative. And actually, can the game of 40k ever 100% match the narrative? I'd suggest the answer to that is probably no.
Yeah.
Because if we were playing 2,000 points narrative on the tabletop tonight against Adam, who's bringing custodies, he'd have a custody, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Because that's how powerful they are.
Yeah.
You know. So I think that perhaps, and I do when I build lists for tournaments, I often go, "This is cool," rather than what. Like we were talking in our group chat a little while ago. I mean, it's quite a while ago now about building Eldar jet bike units of 3 jet bikes. Okay, because I was building this Eldar list, right? I was like, loadout. What loadout should I give them? Because I'm one of those people that's like 3 shuriken cannons, or 3 scout lasers, or 3 shuriken catapults. And I was told you want to take probably 2 scout lasers and 1 catapult, or 2 cannons, 1 catapult. I can't remember which. I was like, mixing up the weapon options. I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
Why? It's like, well, because one of them's an assault weapon.
Yeah.
So it gives you the option to still advance the unit and do an action.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't. My mind doesn't.
It's one of
doesn't
those
compute.
weird. This is another. We're talking about having that mindset when you're staring at yourself in the mirror.
Yes.
Right. You know.
Naked.
One of the things naked. It's like the start of Die Hard 2 when he's doing the jiu-jitsu in the mirror. No, it's you've got to also say to yourself, am I going to get angry and upset at someone for doing something that they can legally do and will do because it's the best option for them? Mm-hmm. Right? Will I get angry at an Eldar player for taking 3D cannons?
I wouldn't.
Right, because when you turn, a lot happens. Some people turn up to the table and there's an Eldar player, and they're like, "Oh, fuck," you know. So I don't have time. And they've already tilted. They've already filled them full of the salt before the game's even started. But if you turn up and be like, "Oh, you got 3D cannons. Your army looks really nice." Like, probably not going to win this game, but I'm not going to let my opinions get the best of me.
Right, okay, so we'll take it back to Call of Duty from yesterday as well, right?
Yeah.
If I get beaten by another player in Call of Duty, who is bouncing around like he's on a fucking pogo stick and sliding like he's got wheels on his knees.
If that's
right?
what you got trained in the army.
No. If he's slide cancelling and sliding and bouncing and jumping, and then he comes into a room with a fully automatic fire shotgun, and he just holds the trigger down and goes, bah, 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 and I'm dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. Do I get angry about that? Not really. Yeah. He's done nothing that is illegal.
No.
Right? Do I get annoyed by a person who's got wall hacks on, an aimbot, who runs around the corner and flattens me because he knows exactly where I am, no matter how well hidden I am? Like, that's when I do get angry. And I think you could apply the same kind of logic, because he's literally cheating. You could apply the same kind of logic to anything at Tournament 40k. If you genuinely think your player has baked his fucking dice, I think you kind of have a reason to question it and get a bit angry.
Yeah.
And if you think that someone's being very loose and fast brom with his movement, or how things are working, or not giving you the same courtesies you're giving him, so you go, yep, you can have cover because you're there or thereabouts, and then in reverse he doesn't give you, I think you can get angry. If they're bringing something that's perfectly legal in the game, and this is where I have a personal experience here with Eldar, not this edition, but literally back in 7th edition.
Yeah.
And I went to I've talked about this a few times on the channel, but I went to a tournament up in Norwich. I think it was Norwich. It might have been Colchester, but I think it was Norwich. I went to a tournament up in Norwich with a friend of mine. We went for a weekend away, lads' weekend. I was in the army still, I think. Well, no, I think I just left. And it was the first time I got a chance to get away after leaving the forces. And we went up to Norwich for this tournament. I pulled an opponent, and I took Eldar. Now, if you know 7th edition Eldar, they were probably as bad as they are now in 10th edition Eldar. And the difference in the end of 7th edition was they had things like formations, where Space Marines could take the Gladiator Strike Force, remember? Endless free Razorbacks.
Yeah.
Cost 0 points and things like that, right? Or the Skyhammer Annihilation Force. Here's all your drop pods that can come in when you Devastators in turn 1. Mad shit happened.
That's when I went to play Heresy.
Mad shit happened at 7th. And Eldar had a number of super broken things as well. There was a thing called invisibility, right? Which is a psychic power. And you could look at your Wraith Knight, which back then was a super heavy walker with D cannons, and you could go, you're invisible. That meant your opponent could only hit it on 6s with his whole army.
Yeah.
You there's things like that existed, right? So I took a fun Eldar list. I've always loved Simhan. I've always loved jet bikes. So you could run a Wind Rider host. You had 3 units of jet bikes, Farseer, Skyrunner Council, all that. Like, everything was jet bikes. Loved it. Fucking loved it because it was super narrative. And I took my Eldar list and I built super narrative Eldar list, took it to my tournament, right? And I rocked up to the table, got drawn against an opponent who looked at who he was drawn against, and he was in an absolute mardy before I'd even walked up to the table.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. He was like, fuck it. I'm his opponent, remember this, chat. I'm his opponent. I said, you're right. Fucking Eldar. Fucking hate Eldar. I was like, oh, okay. And so just fucking people that play Eldar, and I'm like, oh, I'm the guy. Yeah. And it was just angry. I was like, I'm going to get my list out. I'm going to tell you what it does, because I'm here to play the game. So I got my list out and told him what it does. And he was so angry about this Eldar list. I said, so what are you playing? Tyranids. Okay, cool. I can't remember the name of the detachment that they had, but it was basically permanently respawning gargoyles. Yeah, and all the flying Tyranids. Back when flyers, you only hit them on 6s.
Yeah.
Like invisibility.
Yeah.
Right? And he deployed this Tyranid army. I was like, I mean, this is probably the most strong Tyranid formation in existence as well right now.
Yeah.
And you've definitely built it to meta. And we started playing, okay? And I think that come the first 2 or 3 turns, I was like, I took that attitude that we talked about earlier. And I was like, I don't care as much about winning as he clearly does. So let's just have fun. And he continuously forgot or misremembered a bunch of his rules.
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten to do this. Can I just do this? I forgot to respawn D6, G6, Gargoyle, or whatever it was. Can I just do this? And I'm like, at every stage, I did what you said you would agree to do with your player. I was like, go for it, mate. You do it.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Crack on. Go for it, mate. You do the psychic power. I know you've started shooting. There was a psychic phase back then, chat. I know you've started shooting. Do your psychic power. Not a problem. It doesn't matter. And we went through all that. It got to turn 4. And it was the first time I'd forgotten to do something.
Yeah.
I think it was a psychic power, actually. I was like, I think I shot 1 weapon. Can I just do that? He's like, no.
Yeah.
I don't remember how I got into this conversation. But what I'm saying is...
upset with people.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I wasn't at that point upset with his list, with Tyranid list, which was bullshit, because it was perfectly legal.
Yeah.
What annoyed me was his specific attitude.
Yeah.
He got pissy with my Eldar list which was perfectly legal.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like.
It's one of those things where, right, this is going to be a broad sweeping statement, right? I don't want to upset people, but I might do, right? Is if you assume that you both start from the beginning, you both come to a tournament, so you would assume that you both had access to the same or similar size pool of money to spend on an army.
Yeah.
Right? Because you both had to have got those. But you chose to go down one route and that person chose to go down another route. All right? Right? You can't be upset with someone for buying models that you didn't buy.
I mean, I think, actually thinking, now I've had a chance to stop and think about why I went down that route of that story. Where I was going with this was what we spoke about when we talked about people representing the team, right? Be conscious and cognizant of your opponent and how you're making them feel. And even if you walk to that table and you're stood there going, I really hate the fact that I have to play Eldar now, that person might be like me. Eldar is my favourite faction. But Eldar's my favourite faction. I have a fucking great big tattoo of a warlock on my leg. I love Eldar. I've always loved Eldar. I love the backstory. I love the narrative. I love the model aesthetic. I love Eldar. And I now feel like if I was to go to currently any event in 10th edition, a GT or an RTT, I feel like I probably can't or shouldn't take Eldar.
I don't think you should not take them.
No, but I don't want to have that experience because we can all of the 300 people in chat right now, right? They can all go, Liam's right? I'm going to make sure my opponent doesn't have a bad time. But that doesn't mean I'm going to come up against one of them in the tournament. And I might walk up against another player who goes, fucking Eldar. And I instantly am like...
I've come up against some Eldar armies that are fucking stunning. And they have ruined me in 2 turns, right? But I've gone, I can't be angry. This army is beautiful. Like, love and care. Like, you've clearly done Eldar for a long time. You have invested more time into this Eldar army than I have in mine, and it looks incredible. Like, I'm not upset with you, because you clearly love this army. Yeah. I'm not going to be upset with you for playing with somebody.
What about if they're painted like I'm painting mine, which is terrible?
Just dipping.
Yeah.
I'll be like, you tried. I'm proud of you. Yeah? You pat them on the head.
Yeah, you tried. Okay.
Yeah, wipe up the drool from around their lips.
Amazing. Anyway, I am cognizant that we also, thanks to Martin Super Chats earlier, we went off on a tangent there.
Yeah.
He's just reminded me that there's more to get through.
Yeah.
So back into chat, Jay, please.
Thank you, Stick Monkey, or Stick Member. No?
Stick Member.
Yes. This is why I liked organised events that aren't tournament structure, but without coming up against whack. Narrative Wargamers does great events like this. See, yes and no.
Oh, okay.
Right, on this one, because not all narrative events can be fun, because there will be people. I'm going to tell you what exists narratively. Farsight and 18 crisis suits.
Mm-hmm.
All with cyclic iron blasters.
Mm-hmm.
Technically. And they can eat, and you can have a commander in the 3, in 2 of them, and Farsight in 1. That is a narrative list, because Farsight is all about experimental weapons, up close combat, crisis suits, deep striking in. Right? That competitively is incredibly strong, but it's also a narrative army.
Yeah.
So the person going to a narrative event can still take that one.
I think they're rarer.
They're rarer, but Cypher's Cane was part of an artillery detachment, right? So if I turned up with 3 Manticores, 3 Basilisks, 3 the things, and I delete my opponent, like, I've still bought a narrative list.
Yeah.
But those, like, I think, but that, there used to be a time, right, when we didn't have BCP.
Yeah.
You didn't have Best Coast pairings. You would have to email your army list to the TO, and they would look at it and be like, this is a legal list. You may play with it. Or this is an illegal list. You have to change it. I have been to events where they've gone, due to our player base, this list is way too powerful. Can you tone it back? And I think...
How do you feel about that, though?
I think narratively, if you're going to a narrative event, you'd be like, cool, I don't have an issue with toning it back. This is too powerful. There are people coming with grot tank armies, you know?
Yeah. So for a narrative event, I don't actually have a problem with the TO looking at I don't have a problem with everyone sharing lists really early on and be like, yours is far too strong, mate. Calm it down. But for because what happened there as well used to actually happen for GTs and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Right? How do you I don't feel like there's a lot of events, tournaments, channels, all kinds of people out there who aren't Games Workshop, who, whether it's their content, their events, their tournaments, whatever it might be, decide that they know better and put a bunch of house rules in place.
Yeah.
Now, for some of these people, a lot of people in the community agree with the house rules and think they're good changes.
Yeah.
And who am I to argue because I don't know the game system or whatever? Yeah. And some of these people get criticised and get told, you're not playing the game properly, you're using house rules, right? We talked about, at the very start of the stream, you talked about meta watch, and you talked about the more people that go to tournaments, the more data Games Workshop has, the better job they can possibly do at balancing the game because they have a wider pool of data.
Yeah.
I don't entirely disagree with you. I do still think the way that they communicate how they gather their data would lead me to believe that it's mostly bollocks, but maybe they're just not communicating exactly how they're trawling through their pool of data. If you, as a tournament, and we saw this at the start of 10th edition, I think it was in Germany, they ran a big event, and they put a bunch of house rules in place because things were too powerful. And GW were like, I spoke to Games Workshop, I spoke to Mike Brandt specifically, and we talked about that event, and he said, I mean, cool, they did a big event straight away in 10th edition, but we can't use any of the data because they made too many changes to the rules.
Yeah.
So we now don't know whether the particular faction that won that event is because of our rules or the changes that they made, which is interesting. So I think for non-narrative based events, narrative I get doing a bit of policing of people's lists and power of people's lists, especially if the game isn't perceived to be particularly balanced. But for actual competitive games, I don't think a TO should take it upon themselves to majorly adjust the core rules or tell people what they can and can't bring.
Yeah.
If the list is legal, the list is legal. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah.
And if I come up against a person in a competitive event, not a narrative event, who's running Farsight in 18 crisis seats, fair play, you're allowed to take it. No problems, crack on. And I know, and I'll probably look at it and go, oh, this is gonna fucking hurt.
Yeah.
But it's legal, it's fine. Anyway, carry on. Thank you, Stick Monkey, love you.
Yeah.
On that actually, talking about organised events, obviously a lot of you know about Super Secret Project, now known officially as Hobby House, and the fact that we're intending to open that here, including a gaming hall on the bottom floor. We will be running organised events here as well as competitive events, as well as Fantasy and Heresy and Age of Sigmar, etc., and Bolt Action and blah. We'll be doing all the things, Magic, etc., doing all the things all the time. But we will be also running organised events. What I'm currently thinking about doing for Hobby House for a 40k event specifically, although I need to talk to my business partner, is weekend GT, 1 month GT, 1 month organised event, 1 month GT, 1 month organised event. So if real competitive isn't your thing, you come to an organised event instead. You're guaranteed to get 5 games in. You're guaranteed to play 5 different people, but it's less about just winning. And what we'll be doing in those events is we'll be issuing, I'm hoping, issuing prizes for narrative lists, themed lists, paint schemes, conversions, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be more hobby focused than it will be winning focused.
Yeah.
I think that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Carry on.
Thank you, Tim Wilson. This is my friend Tim.
Oh, you have a friend?
I've got a friend. Yeah.
Really?
And he says, Joe. He goes, halibut. There's a great video I sent you earlier about some fishermen that think they found a mermaid, but it's always a halibut. And they're like, oh, it's always a halibut. You gotta watch it. It's great.
Okay.
It says, say if you run Eldar or Eldari, would you just omit certain mechanics like fate dice to make it more fun for your opponent? And that's his first super chat. Thank you.
What legend?
Yeah.
I have. It very much depends, I think. This is scalable, okay? So I've taken, what army was it that I took? I think it was Death Guard. I took Death Guard to an event. It was at Factorum, actually. And I came up against a person who was playing their first ever tournament of 40k. It was game 3, and not only was their first ever tournament for 40k, game 3 was their 3rd ever game of 40k. And it didn't take me long to work that out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to a lot of us who've played for a long time, it'd probably be pretty obvious, right? But it didn't take me a lot of time to work that out and go, oh, this person hasn't played much before. By no later than turn 2, maybe even earlier than that, I had stopped using stratagems. I stopped using contagion. I stopped all the fancy shit my army could do. This is 9th edition, by the way, not 10th edition. I stopped doing all the fancy shit that my army could do. Because I was like, at this point, what had become clear to me was this person still didn't really have a full grasp on the core mechanics of the rules. I didn't really care about winning the game or the tournament because we spoke about that already today. So I actually just took my time to make sure that they learnt a bit more, to to make sure that they knew how things worked, to make sure that they actually got to fire some of their guns,
Yeah.
do some of their stuff, use some of their models. Guess what, right? No surprise, I still won the game. Because I think you can do, especially that, I mean, we're talking about a wild skill discrepancy at this particular point in time, obviously. So I still managed to win the game anyway. But they had a great, they actually got to play for 5 turns. They were playing Knights because they thought, well, Knights is a good army to learn with, which it is, because there's less rules, but also means you can get tabled quicker if your opponent knows what they're doing. And the first 2 games, they just had their pants pulled down, which isn't very nice.
No.
So I actually wound back. So I took away, like I said, Contagion. I took away Stratagem, so I could play my opponent, and my opponent had fun. And they did have fun. So in certain circumstances, would I stop using Fate dice just to make sure my opponent has a better time? Dare I say this and give you guys a peek behind the curtain? But there are times on stream where you'll be like, why does he use a Fate dice there, and why hasn't he used a Fate dice there?
Yeah.
Because if I do option B and not option A, it's fucking stupid, broken the game's over very quickly.
And also, when running Eldar on the channel, it's very difficult because we know once Eldar go onto the channel for a stream, our numbers are going to take a hit immediately.
Which makes me sad because they're my favourite, but yes, you are correct.
But also, people will be like, it's Eldar, it's just going to destroy the other person. It's not going to be a fun view. Yeah. So you have to make it fun for the opponent you're playing with. You have to make it fun for the people watching as well. You have to choose not to do specific things.
Yeah, so I think especially reasonable to good players can still run things like Fate dice without actually fully removing the mechanic, but not use it on the avatar's hit roll every single time to make sure you get sustained D3. Okay,
in Overwatch,
for example,
every time,
for example, right? So if you're playing an opponent where you're like, this is going to be a bit easy for the Eldar potentially, you can still use Fate because you also have to be. I think you have to be conscious about the other person's feelings as well. So if you go to the other person, don't worry, I won't use Fate dice. Then what you said to them is, you're a bit shit.
I don't need this.
I don't need this whole mechanic just to beat you.
Yeah.
So
you have to be a bit more subtle about it.
Yes, right. But you kind of do. Yeah, absolutely. You kind of do because I feel like if I walked up to the table as an Eldar player, I didn't use Fate dice, and I was like, I won't use my re-rolls and my hits and my re-rolls and wounds, etc. They'll be like, fucking cocky shit, and almost justifiably so. So I think if it was me personally, Tim, I'd probably still use them, but I'd be cognizant of how I'm using them without it being too obvious to my opponent as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of.
You might just forget.
Yeah. You might just forget every now and again where I could use that 6 there, but I'm actually not going to use that 6 there. Or I could use that 1 there and change it to a 6. Yeah. But I won't talk about that mechanic and we won't do that mechanic. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like you don't patronising your opponent is a good way of putting it, Evan. Like be very conscious of how they feel as well. Yeah. Like you also could go full Fate dice have tabled you in 2 turns. Don't do that either because that could be shit, you know. Yeah. You could say this ability is overpowered and due a nerf, so I won't use it.
Well, I need to get used to not using it because it's probably going to change.
yeah. I'd take those as well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Tim, anyway.
Thank you, Dang Skippy, for 5 gifted memberships.
Dang, Skippy.
Lima Rice says 40k tournaments last year was the best time I had.
That's good.
I had a great one last year. I won it.
But Lehman Russ just goes with his world eaters every single time to have fun.
Yeah. So, it's difficult not to have fun with world eaters because you just play it like the old Napoleonic game. It's just slide forward,
charge. Absolutely.
Thank you,
Lehman.
Thank you, Martin Easterman. Again, being in a stream at a tournament where the win-loss is not reported ensures I am only facing like-minded people. Same as games where online there is no kill count. Means you focus on playing the role.
Yes. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I do get it. And I think that a lot of people, especially in this edition at the moment, are arguably falsely put off going to tournaments.
Yeah.
Because tournaments all report on win rates and they all report. So I actually don't disagree that we could potentially have a series of events that are less kind of public with win rates and win numbers and all that kind of stuff. And
And you do find on Facebook online communities, for example, you'll find that the negative voices are always the loudest.
You do always.
So
in everything.
Yeah. So it's easy for people to be put off. So for instance, right, this is an example, but it's not of a realistic thing. Say something really bad happens at LVO this weekend.
That's all you'll hear about.
That's all you'll hear about. And then 300 people might comment on it, right? One person might be like, I played against this person that the thing had. I had a great time. In fact, I had a really good weekend. But that's one person, and there's 299 bad comments.
Stefan says, sorry, I'm late all. You know the rules. If you're late, it's a 5 gifted membership fee.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody who ever admits that they're late, I tell you it's a 5 gifted membership fee.
And 5 Guys delivered here.
No, that's a bit expensive, Joe.
Oh, KFC. McDonald's nuggets.
But you're right. You're 100% right with what you said. If we look at the Warhammer World Championships that happened at the tail end of last year, all I specifically heard about, it happened over the weekend that we launched the studio as well. And Adrian was here from Titans, and we had some other people here as well for the weekend. And all we heard about was this drama that occurred between Manny and, was it John Lennon? I think it was John Lennon. And all we heard about was this drama, what was really interesting is all the drama that we actually got reported to us direct here whilst we were streaming, actually a lot of it was disproven or wasn't factual when you stopped and looked at the facts. But the internet fucking exploded.
Yeah. So it's easy to people be like, so say 300 people comment about it, one's good, 299 are bad. People be like, 299 people complained about this event. Why would I go? So it's easy to be put off. So
It's very easy to be put off, 100%.
So like I said here, where being in a stream at a tournament where it's not reported, right? Having not reported, but you want good stuff coming out, don't you, as well? I don't know.
The thing is, like Luce and I have talked about this quite a lot on the Talking Head streams. The world in general focuses on bad news.
Yeah.
It just does. Bad news travels faster and bad news travels further. And if you want to sell a newspaper or have people watching your news show, you typically put bad news on.
I follow this girl on TikTok.
I'm sure you do.
Who does
You stop at that, Jay.
good news videos. And she always does videos about someone found a raccoon in their loft and it was really poorly and now it's fat and happy, you know? Or like...
Was it called Joe?
or like this person here won loads of money and they gave it all away to a hospital kind of thing, which then helped a bunch of people get healed. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good. Plus, I like watching videos about raccoons.
Well, yeah.
But I got a T-shirt on with a raccoon on it.
But bad news does travel fast. Warhammer Champs might be slightly different in terms of the like if you consider the type of people that probably went to Warhammer Champs, everybody there wanted realistically to be crowned the Warhammer champion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously, everyone was there. Is the winner.
Yeah.
We're all winners here.
But you were like, if you're right with what you say, how many people go to LVO? 700-800 more? I'm not sure for the 40k champs anyway, right? If one person has one issue at that event, one major fuck up, especially if it's on a stream itself, not his version of a stream, but an actual stream, right? Then that's all you're going to hear about. Yeah. Despite the fact that the other 699 people might have had a great time.
Yeah. And it was like one game out of 1,000 games on it that was bad.
Yeah. Warhips says, no, they can't be fun. I'm sorry, Josh, that means it's probably a you issue. Because Joe and I have a great time.
Yeah. Thank you, Street Spirit, for 1 gifted membership. Thank you, Martin Easterman again. Oh, you can stop now.
No, you can't. He only comes in once every 6 months, Joe. Let him keep going.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Martin, love you. Martin, genuinely, Martin is part of the reason we're in this room. Because Martin helped me find the first studio that I applied to that we got rejected for, but the estate agents were the same estate agents that recommended this room to us.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for him sending me a link to the studio in Lyndhurst that I applied to that we didn't get, we probably wouldn't be in here. So thank you, Martin. Everyone in chat, say thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
I mean, you could mean it.
I do mean it.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes my face just does this. This might be the reason why I have so much trouble at tournaments. It's just because of my face.
Those who've got permanent resting bitch face.
I'm one of those people that has trouble showing how I feel internally, which causes problems on days like my birthday and Christmas Day when people give me gifts I'm really excited about. Sometimes my face does not convey the emotions inside me.
It's weird because when we watch you play 40k, all we see is emotions.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just miserable. No. So people are like, I got this present. And I'm like, yeah, I always wanted this gift. It's great. It's wonderful. And they're like, are you happy about it? And I'm like, yes. So when I go to tournaments, I have said to some of my opponents, I'd be like, I'm very sorry. I have to apologise for my face. I am enjoying this game. Yeah. Just in my face.
Hence, the Sad Joe meme is a thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin.
That was just wind.
Yeah. Some people at tourneys are just there to play with their toys and hardly ever have someone to play against versus people who get to play all the time and are only there to compete. Streamline and disincentives winning in one stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like...
Have you followed that?
No.
I know you've read it, but have you actually followed it?
The words have come into my body.
What he's
saying is that people only get to play once a year.
Some people go to tournaments because it's the only way they get to play, right? And so if everyone has a similar kind of condition or path to victory when they go to that specific event, then the person who only gets to play might end up playing 5 tournament players who really want to win because that's the luck of the draw, and might just have a really bad time. If you disincentivize the winning for a group of people at the event, then actually that person can go into that pool of people, that stream of winning.
In the UK, we don't have, like, in the ITC they have hobby track, which is a scoring metric within BCP, which means that you can say, like, this person has the best army.
Yeah.
So I know they have winners, they have events at the LVO, which is the hobby track people as well.
Yeah.
So you've got, here's the people who have won, who have been scored highly on having nice armies, and here's the people who have the best competitive streak.
Yeah.
But I think maybe is the reason that there are less narrative and controlled play events than there are competitive events.
Do you think that in the UK in general, events have become a little bit copy and paste?
Easy, innit? That's the
so
thing.
like events are GT. Because the thing is, GW, and I think GW did a good job with it. Like, I think they made the right choice here. GW released tournament kind of guidance, right?
Yeah.
Here's the things you should probably use for your pairings. Here's the things you should probably use for your placings. Here's the missions that you should use. Here's how we build them. Off you go. Everyone went super easy, cool.
Yeah.
My event looks the same as what differentiates 5 GTs nowadays between each other?
Terrain layout.
The person that runs it, yeah. Like that's about
and
it.
And also, in terms of running an event, it is very difficult. So if you don't have a venue, right, most people start their events at 36 people or 24. It's normal. I'd say it's probably 24, because that means you only need to get 12 tables ready, right? And the problem is with 40k is it requires terrain, and you either go high financial investment to get no return, or low financial investment to get a bit of a return. Most people tend to go for the low investment, when I think early on, if you want to succeed and do well, you probably have to go for the high financial investment, which is nice terrain, normally plastic or 3D printed, not just cardboard or laser cut L's.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when you end up in copy-paste territory. If you get nice, right, if you want to go bleeding edge, right, you go and get all plastic GW, nice terrain. You can build it in the L shape, right? You can have the same table layout as all the other competitive people, but your terrain will look different, right? And you can use, like, nice mats instead of just having
Do you think,
sheets.
though, like, even if we, like, so I don't disagree with you at all, by the way, to be fair, but do you think that tournaments in general potentially could do better or could be more successful in this country specifically? I don't know what it's like in the US, by the way, but in this country specifically could be more successful if TOs made conscious choices to be different to other people.
Yeah.
So like I'm saying, like the win path, the pairings metrics, etc., they're typically all copy paste now. You don't really like, and so often you'd be like, well, what's the point in going to this event in Andover when I could just go to Factorum next month instead?
Yeah.
And actually, the way that ITC works is it only takes your top 6 results, and you need to have a major, like blah 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 blah. So why would I go? Whereas what it could potentially do, I don't know if this is true or not, but what it could potentially do is it could maybe you go, that one looks like it could be fucking fun. Because actually, they do their pairing slightly differently, or their win path is slightly different. That could be a good laugh, that one. And then this one is more kind of traditional, so I'm going to enjoy that one as well. Actually, now I kind of want to go to both. Do you see what I mean? Because they're different experience.
I think, like, I've been to events where I've gone, this terrain is fucking incredible. But then they never run the event again.
Yeah.
Because they haven't made any money. And then they have to find somewhere to store all that terrain, and then they just kind of give it up.
Yeah.
I think maybe, is it because people run TOs because they want to run tournaments, but they also think they're going to make loads of money and get famous from it. When you're actually going to, where I think you go, if you go, I've got great terrain, we're not using competitive layouts, we're using BCP because I need an easy system that players can input information onto for wins, losses, and I can rank people.
I mean, BCP just works well.
Yeah.
It's just good.
But we're not doing the format, and we're here to have a good time.
Do you think, I think there's a difference, I'd be interested to see if you think, do you think there's a difference between a competitive layout of terrain and balanced layout of terrain that works competitively?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think.
It's different. Because the problem with having fixed terrain layouts, because Games Workshop's put fixed terrain layouts, and then the ITC also, like LVO has it, and WTC has their own terrain layouts. Terrain layouts competitively control the composition of your army.
Yeah.
I remember.
Do you reckon you can build narrative tables
that are competitive?
that
Yes.
work competitively?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You could go, here's a jungle board of a ruined civilization. It's got trees, it's got ruined buildings.
Okay, can you build tonight a table that's narrative, that's going to work competitively, that isn't just a 180-degree copy-paste?
Yes.
Cool, there you go, chat. We'll see.
Yeah. I think I'd probably have to know the mission first.
We can do that.
They have to know the mission and the deployment.
For reference, we normally do it the other way around. Joe normally builds a table and then we randomly draw the cards for Leviathan.
Yeah.
We could do it the other way around.
I miss the good old days where TOs would bang all the terrain on the table at the start of the first game. They wouldn't touch it for 3 games. It's like, that's your terrain layout, stick with it.
Yeah.
You know? But I think what you could do competitively, you could also do it narratively, is you set all your tables up at the start, right?
Yeah.
And they're all different, right? Here's a crash spaceship. Here's a jungle. Here's the underhive, right? Right? And everyone doesn't play the same mission, right? Random table drawings, random pairings, and you play the mission that is the table.
Okay.
Right? So one is the scouring, one is search and destroy, one is the relic, one is that kind of thing.
Oh, those missions don't exist.
I know they don't, but that's just an example. All right? Right? And it's not down to I stood there for 3 hours on a Tuesday night with every terrain layout set for this weekend, measuring the distances between walls so I know that the units I've picked can get from here to there to charge and do stuff, right? It's all down to generalship and having a balanced army, because you know that you don't know what mission you're going to play, you don't know what board, you don't know what your opponent's going to be. Like, you have made the best balanced army to deal with any situation that's thrown at you.
What's interesting is I used to run the tournaments at Factorum, the GTs, and I handed it back to Factorum in 10th edition because Hobby House was ramping up, the studios was ramping up, etc. I'm still happy to help. I said to them, I was with them a couple of weeks ago, I'm still more than happy to help them with their tournament packs, because we're expecting a balanced data slate. We might see new missions and new ways of playing in 10th edition. It might be that they change the mission set every 6 months as well, who knows? And what I've said to them is I'm happy to help, but it's not a short amount of work. No. So we would go into Factorum to do the table layouts, right? Yeah. And what we would do is you'd put 2 buildings on the table, and then you'd be like, hang on a minute, and you'd have to measure and be like, actually, they're 11 inches apart, which means a jump infantry unit can literally jump from one building to the other building and never be out in the open at all.
Yeah, but a unit that's moved 6 inches is stuck in the open.
Yeah, so we actually had to spend a lot of time moving terrain around just to try and make sure that people couldn't just bring a specific list for our terrain layout.
Yeah.
Right? So, because we wanted people to go down the route of what you've just said. We want people to bring reasonably balanced lists to a tournament, because I think that I personally believe that lends to more fun, unless what the person's done is gone, I'm not doing balance because I'm doing mad skew lists for funds.
Yeah.
And I've bought a Warhound Titan because it's a laugh, right? But what we would have to do is we spent hours and hours and hours measuring between terrain so that we could try and make it the most balanced and fun for people that were turning up.
Yeah.
I love the concept of missions to maps and the preset maps. Yeah. And what we would also do is in between each round, the TOs would go around and move all the terrain for the new mission so that every single person was always playing on the same map, on the same mission.
Yeah.
So no one could say, well, he won that because he had an easier path of missions.
Yeah.
And I sort of think about it, I'm like, it's a bit sad actually, a little bit sad that people do go down that road now. People do go the road, well, he had an easier go. I mean, you can't, it's fucking Warhammer.
Yeah, so what makes a better general? Someone who can sit down, look at 6 terrain layouts, knowing that they're going to play on those 6 terrain layouts on 6 specific missions, and write a list that fits that, knowing statistically they have created the best army they can to fit this game of chess. Or is a better general saying, like, I've made an army, and then I will on the fly have to deal with whatever situation is thrown at me.
Here's a fact. Here's a fact. No tournament will ever be fair.
Yeah.
You know why?
It's not balanced.
Not that. If Games Workshop perfectly balance the game, maybe it's more fair, but it'll never be fair. You know why? First pairing is always random.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 of the best players in the world at the same tournament, there is a possibility they play each other round 1.
Yeah.
There's also a possibility that both of them play complete noobs round 1. Unless you start seeding all the players.
Yeah.
Before when you go into unless they only go to events that use seedings, it doesn't.
And the issue with seedings is one person who's an absolute savant might not play for a year, and then turn up and they'll be like, well, this person here has won their last 10 tournaments. This guy's never played a tournament. Like, we're going to seed them so they're apart from each other, and this guy who apparently never played a tournament in the last year, new edition, just ruins everyone.
Yeah. He says most people won't read the player pack. I don't think I ever read a player pack.
I've read the player pack, and I tend to read them normally because of sometimes I will want to know what the missions are. Sometimes there's if I've converted a model and I want to know if I will be allowed, I want to know if I can use it before I have to contact the TO.
I don't read player pack.
No.
I normally read the player pack the Friday night before to find out what time game 1 is.
It grips my shit when my first opponent is like, what mission are we playing?
I need to speak to Adam to be like, can I come to Beachhead but not play the Friday night game and not play the first game on Saturday?
Yeah.
Because then I can stay in bed.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy.
Yeah. That's the rules of Beachhead have always been you can drop in, drop out whenever you want.
Can I play in the 40k tournament but just use Sylvaneth models?
No.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure Beachhead does have an AOS event.
It probably does.
It has a bolt action one.
We've got more to get through, Joe. We've got 4 minutes.
Sorry.
So we're going to run out of time. We're going to have to keep going.
Thank you, Kazarian. Angron and 8 Bloodthirsters is narrative of fuck.
I'm into it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
They can do that in mini wargaming. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
We can't.
But in the rules, you can only have... There's only 1 Bloodthirst now, isn't there? There used to be... You used to be able to run 3 of 3, didn't you?
There's 1 type now, so yeah.
Yeah. Boo. Thank you, Martin. Just to clarify, I'm not suggesting a narrative stream in a tournament. I'm talking about that I want to bring whatever models they like to and play. Narrative is a whole extra burden and focus.
Yes. Sorry that he's reading your super chat. He doesn't do England very well.
I think what I said is the best idea. All the tables are preset at the start of the event, but they're all narrative tables, and you just get given a random table.
It's kind of like that when we went to No Retreat.
Yeah.
So all the tables are preset layout tables because they have very unique custom tables at No Retreat.
Yeah.
But I also think we did play the same mission each round.
No, I think if you set the mission to the table, you can balance it in the sense that not one person is going to have a really shit deployment and the other one's got stood in the open. And then you just make sure that no one plays on the same table twice.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I'm into it. Thank you, Martin. You're a legend. Love you.
And you don't even have to be narrative then.
Yeah.
You can just bring models you like to play with.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just there to play and have fun. Thank you, Christopher Sanford. I think some confusion came from what people mean by narrative. There's a difference between narrative, i.e. fluff, and lore, and narrative as a proxy for Garage Hammer or not meta chasing. Yes.
Narrative is a very broad word that even we are guilty of using to apply to
Games Workshop uses as well.
Yeah, it's a big stamp that people apply to a vast array of things, and I think that it's quite interpretive. I think different people can mean different things by narrative.
Yeah.
So what I call narrative might be different to what a Luton calls narrative, might be different to what a Winters calls narrative, might be different to what Joe calls narrative, which is fine, but it is definitely a very broad scope. And I often also think people can use narrative to hide behind and as an excuse for certain things and certain choices. But you're right, I agree with you. Absolutely, I agree with you, Chris.
Yeah.
I think that there are different versions of what is in fact narrative and what is lore and what is lore accurate.
Well, I suppose you could have it in 8th edition. There was narrative, competitive, and open play.
Yeah.
Which makes more sense.
Open play is kind of Garage Hammer.
Yeah.
Narrative is kind of Crusade-y.
Yeah.
And then competitive is competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely agree.
That's what we do from now on. Open play.
Open war all the time.
Yeah.
I found the open war cards.
Open play war cards.
Open play war cards game, Hammer. I found those in the garage. I bought them here. They're in here somewhere now.
Really?
Yeah. We could use them.
You can play that tonight.
We can't because on the scoreboard, I need to talk to. I need to have a meeting with Bridger.
Yeah.
About the scoreboard.
And be like, fix it for all the things I need it to be.
The good side of having a fancy Bridger-based scoreboard is it's a fancy Bridger-based scoreboard and it's really nice. The downside is I can't make any changes to it without Bridger.
Yeah.
Until Brom learns how to
have
code.
him brought to England. And chain him to the desk.
Yeah. Chain him to the desk.
Thank you, Big Bad Peter Gaming, for the 5 gifted members.
More members! Whee!
Thank you, Son of Olympia, for the 1 gifted membership.
More members! Whee!
Thank you, Evan Manillo, for 1 gifted membership. Thank you, Benjamin Dustin. I only play at tournaments 5 hours away from home due to no local players. I get a mix of games because there's a bit of a custom stuff often. The only issue I have is tournament terrain, which sucks.
It doesn't have to, though, does it?
No.
Tournament terrain at one of the earliest LGTs, which was polystyrene cut Ls without any paint.
I remember I wasn't even at LVO, right? And I had friends in the queue for LVO, the first one, right? And there was already memes on the internet about how bad the terrain was.
Yeah.
People had literally heard about the terrain at LVO and then ran into their kitchen and put a shoe, a book, an apple on the table, photographed it. This is the LVO terrain. And they weren't far wrong.
LVO, LGT.
LGT. All right. But the thing is, though, like, when I was at the Mikey's tournament, there was a man there with his laser cut MDF terrain for tournaments. But it was like a 3D print / painted on textured pattern on the outside.
That's cool.
All right. And he had little hook on lamps and radars.
So quite detailed.
It was very detailed, super detailed, but it's textured, looked incredible. So it was, and obviously it was cut in a way, so it's literally just push out and play. And that looked way better than your standard just plain MDF, or even plain MDF, which one was spray painted red.
Yeah.
I'd like us, when we're downstairs, to be complete snobs and have really expensive, nice terrain.
I mean, I'd like that too, Joe, but the problem with the really expensive nice terrain is it's really expensive.
Yeah.
That's the clue is kind of in the title.
Steal it.
Yeah. Thank you to for all the gifted memberships anyway. Someone just said thank you for my gifted membership. If you have got a gifted membership, or if you've got a membership and you've not done it before, !Discord in the chat came to my attention last night that some people didn't know there was a Discord. !Discord in the chat. Click the link, get yourself in Discord. Make sure you connect to a YouTube account, to your Discord account, user settings, connections, YouTube. It's quite easy. And then the whole Discord will open up into you. If you go into Discord now and you haven't connected your YouTube account to your Discord account, you'll be like, what's the fucking point of this Discord? There's nothing in it.
Yeah.
But actually, it's because you haven't connected. Once you've connected, it opens it all out and off you go. Okay? Chroma Cut Studios, Liam, the Kickstart failed. Oh, that's sad. Failed bad or failed a little bit?
I think it's failed big.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a shame because it's really nice. And he was telling me basically he'd made the terrain at work to play on terrain at work. And someone came in and was like, I like that terrain, I'll buy it. But it was really nice stuff. And it's a shame it failed because I was being advertised everywhere. I just think it was very expensive because the technology designed to print / paint onto the wood was expensive.
I need to see this project.
It's really good.
I need to see this project.
Because he'd done competitive terrain, which he did narrative attachments for. So you had like a little stepped area, which was your dense terrain, But he also had a radar dish you could put on top of it, so it looked more narrative. And
Only half funded. What was the shortfall? There's of interest. You carry on, Jay.
Thank you, Benjamin Dustin. So I work night shift, so I often have to warn the others that I'm tired because of that, and it's not that I'm unenthusiastic like Joe's face. True.
Facts.
Yeah.
Straight facts.
I remember.
Remember
when
Star Wars.
we went all the way up to Nottingham for a doubles event, and I shared a room with my mate Dan, and he snores bad, right? And I couldn't sleep in the bedroom, and I had headphones in, and then I ended up trying to sleep in the Premier Inn's bathroom. I don't know if you've closed the door with the lights off in the Premier Inn dark room, but that room is dark, right? Like you can't even see your hand in front of your face. Like it's like darkness, like the opposite of light. You'd imagine, right? So, and I couldn't even sleep because I could hear it vibrating through the walls. So in the end, I tried to sleep in my car, which was an Audi at the time, and the alarm on those is very sensitive. So the moment I moved in my sleep, the car alarm went off every time. So I got very ill very quickly at that, and I remember apologising to my opponents because I fell asleep at the table.
Darkness isn't the opposite of light; it's the absence of light.
You waited that entire talk just to say that.
Scientifically.
Did you even hear my story?
No.
Or was you so fixated on your little comeback?
You were sleeping in your Audi and you got very sick that weekend.
Yeah. So I had. Yeah. So like.
I can multitask, Joe. Some of us can do it. Did you remember?
Amen. Thank you, Gordon Fenton. Fenton! I tend to avoid tournaments as I want to have fun narrative games. As a result, I just play with a mate at Element in Stockport. I mean, that's no bad thing.
But if you get to play regularly, that's great, right?
Yeah.
That's still good.
Like, there's a lot of people that, like, have to work on weekends or they have kids, so the only times they can play is in an evening at their local club. And sometimes you might find that those people actually play more games than people that play at tournaments do.
Show me showdown in Kansas City. I was sick as a dog. There's a tournament flu's a thing.
Oh yeah,
Tournament flu is 100% a thing.
Tournament voice as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the worst that I had it is at Warhammer World doubles events.
Yeah.
Because there's like 400 people crammed around 100 tables, and everyone is shouting.
Yeah.
And normally drunk.
Yeah.
And there's a lingering smell of farts.
Yeah. Joe's got one more super chat to get through, and then we'll be saying goodbye to Liam and Joe show today. So if you want to get your gifteds in, and I know you've all been waiting until right now, all probably 300 of you. Top left, Jay. I don't know where it says live chat. Top left. Top left. How many?
294.
All 294 of you.
In Joe's day, Nichols had pictures of bumblebees.
All 294 of you. I know you've been waiting until now to get your gifteds in. Now it's time to do it. We've got one more super chat to get through. Please. I also saw that the shortfall, by the way, was £9,500. I can't afford to plug that gap.
No. I thought it was a bit steep when I saw it the first time.
15,000 isn't
terrible, but I think because it is a base MDF design, I think a lot of people are like, it's not 3D printed.
I still don't think that's a hugely high Kickstarter target, to be honest with you.
Thank you, Tom.
Titus Strain, we set 100 grand, I think, was the target. Yeah.
$90.
So,
and you beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a competition.
I mean, what did we set 200 grand? I can't remember. It is a little bit.
Just so great, Liam, aren't you?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh. Titans is so great.
That's correct. Well done.
They're wonderful people. I shall kiss them all on the forehead. But with blem tongue.
But he'll have a miserable face doing it.
Yeah. I'll be sat.
He'll look like he's not enjoying it.
Yeah. When I am. Excuse the erection. No? Right. Thank you, Tom Mitchell. Never had a bad time at a tournament, but I play World Eaters, so most games take about 30 minutes. Big love for Factorum and looking forward to Beachhead.
Yeah. I might just come for I reckon.
You have to come.
I might come for the social.
I was talking to a fellow Flesh Terrors person this morning, and I'm looking forward to meeting him.
I might just come for the social. I might not play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to see if I can get a
come.
pass.
I
love the social. I couldn't give a fuck about playing. I might actually book a hotel room and literally just come for beer and walk around tables and talk to people.
Like Tom says, right, and we say on the channel, a quick game is a fun game.
Well, it depends on what end of it you're on.
Yeah. But like, there's nothing, like, I remember when AdMech were broke as shit, and it was just like, I mortal wound you death in a turn. I table you in a turn. Do you remember those times?
Yeah.
When everyone was just running Skitari Rangers and blowing people away in seconds. I remember at Nottingham, at the Nottingham GT, I think it was Vic for J was running AdMech, and he'd set up his army.
Vic comes into the stream every now and again.
Yeah. Table his opponent, turn 1, and then he'd sleep for the next 3 hours.
Sounds great.
I remember, because I was running, I was playing, and I went and helped Floris at the desk where he was doing the store. I looked up, and he was like that in the corner, just sleeping with his army next to him.
What legend. Apparently no one was waiting to gift any memberships, Joe. Because that super chat was read in. Tom, by the way, I love you. He's a hero. I think he offered us an old world dwarf army to play with.
Yeah?
Which was very kind of him.
I love it. I love dwarves.
Yeah?
Yeah. And Warhammer one.
I was waiting.
No, a dwarf army. I want the Slayer army, but one of them will have the blue and white stripy pants.
Yeah.
Thank you, Trout187 for the 1 gifted membership.
He did it! He did it, Joe!
Wee. Oh, I remember.
I remember, yeah. That's it anyway. Basically, long and short of today's stream, long and short of today's topic, long and short of today in general, actually, because Adam's coming later, is that, tournaments on the whole, I actually think are a good fun experience. There are bad people. There are bad people out there. There are people that get to tournaments that can put a dampener on your experience.
That's life.
I mean, it is life in general. There's a person that can piss you off in the supermarket.
Yeah. Your job could be great, but you have sometimes have to work with an arrogant, very person. I could have said worse things then.
You could you? Someone's phoning me. I need to mute it. Anyway, long and short of it is, I think tournaments can be tons and tons and tons of fun. If you've avoided one or not gone to one for whatever reason because you think it's going to be a terrible experience, or honestly, I think you could and should give it a go, and I think you probably will enjoy the majority of it at the very least. If you go with that attitude that I don't necessarily have to win and I'm just going to enjoy myself, you probably will have fun. And if you do come up against one of those opponents where you look at it and think, he's going to make my life difficult, again, just try and make sure he has fun, because the second he's having fun, you'll probably have fun as well. Yeah. I think Joe's very right with what he says. Take that, I mean, maybe not necessarily specifically, actually, but even metaphorically, take that look in the mirror before you go and be like, do I actually really care about winning 5 games? Am I likely to? Or should I just go and enjoy myself? I think tournaments can be loads and loads and loads of fun. At 7:30 this evening, when we go live, Adam will be joining us, who is going to be running the 40k Beachhead event. He runs Beachhead every single year. And in terms of major events, my favourite one. The reason being, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail later tonight, but the way he runs it makes it very easy for you to drop in, play, come back out, not play, drop in, play. Like, you can just pick and choose what you're doing when you do it. You can go to the bar, enjoy yourself, have a few drinks. It's quite sociable, it's quite relaxed, it's very chilled. And so that's a great example of an event that's run so that people can just enjoy themselves. Yeah. And those that also want to really try and really want to win can do that. It kind of sits basically almost where Martin wants. Like, I can turn up, go, don't care about winning. If I skip game 1, I'm almost definitely not getting paired into a tryhard game 2, am I? Because they've all won their first game. Yeah. Right? Cool, sweet, go and enjoy myself now. I literally know I can't win the event because I've skipped game 1. No, I can't win.
I like it.
Yeah,
it's like the opposite of submarining.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for all joining us today on the Liam and Joe. I want to say this evening, but it's not this evening because we normally stream in the evening, but it's actually lunchtime for us, but morning for others. Yeah. So we've got some gifteds that have come through, Joe.
Thank you, John and Paris, for 1 gifted membership. Thank you, Mad Larkin, for 1 gifted membership. And thank you, Leaks Veeks, for 1 gifted membership.
I don't know what that puts us on, but thank you, everybody, for the gifteds. Thank you so much for all the super chats today on the Liam and Joe show. You people have been amazing. Thank you for the incredible support. We love you all very, very dearly. We're now going to go and start getting ready for this evening stream amongst doing other things. I've got to build the set for next week for our podcast guest, pre-recorded show guest. Yeah. Amazing. So we hope to see you at 7:30. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye. Have a wonderful time.